When will electronic harassment come to an end? What year is it going to be? It's probably going to be around 2030 that there's some kind of progress or the first step of movement in the right direction. Um, this is going to be lots of hurdles to overcome before that. I mean, every victim knows that this sort of challenge has been going on for a while, and it's hard. It seems like it's going to run on forever. So that's probably the most realistic answer for now. The biggest hurdle is going to be denial. That for over 50 years, pretty much everybody has denied that electronic harassment exists, that it's a problem, it's there. Um, you know, that's the biggest hurdle to try and overcome for now. Current situation as we have it, it's lots of victims. All of them are being ignored. All of them are sort of being shunned and put to one side. And it's simply because there are not enough people suffering from this sort of thing. The volume of people is not there. Um, I don't know how many victims there are, but I'm guessing it's less than a percent of any country, less than a percent of the entire world's population. So that's why for now it's still very easy to ignore this sort of problem and just put people aside and say, no, it doesn't exist, it's not there. So what is it that it's going to take? The first thing is going to take lots more victims, unfortunately. It's going to have to take a lot more people becoming victims so that you can't just run around saying, it's this problem doesn't exist, there are not enough people. And this is going to mean a lot of people have to die. And still within that, it's very easy to sort of hide behind normal illnesses such as cancer and other types of medical illnesses and falsified medical records. And probably what's more realistic is a significant portion of the workforce. If people don't pitch up to work and they're all suffering from hearing voices or suffering from some kind of illness, then that's a little bit more serious. I mean, it just means now there's less goods being produced, less people are paying taxes, and whatever government or whoever's in power is going to have less in their pockets, less GDP, less money in their pocket. And maybe what it's also going to take is awareness by example. I mean, if a neighbor sees, and if a neighbor can stalk somebody, one of their neighbors, and they can actually use remote neural monitoring by example, and that actually becomes clear to them that, look, I can see through my neighbor's house, I can see what they're doing, I can see what this guy is doing, I can read his thoughts via text. So that's a clear-cut example. You can't deny that. You can't deny it would have been sort of a clear-cut example of you having seen the technology at work. Current situation, again, it's in terms of rest of society who's not victims. Most people are actually unaware that this sort of thing is going on and it exists. And most people actually do only know about all of this kind of madness once they become victims. Something like voice to skull is very difficult to explain to somebody who's not a victim. And also the scheme is too complex to work out, to understand. I mean, there's so many moving parts, there's so many little bits and pieces. It's very difficult to understand why a network or a gang would employ sort of people taking shifts 24 hours just to sort of harass somebody. It doesn't make sense. And also the money-making part of it doesn't really make sense, because most people are used to crimes being somebody walking up to a guy and taking your car by force or breaking into a bank. But this is not a crime like that. It's a lot of these gangs seem to be very patient, and they seem to be following a very strict system. It's very unlike a normal gang that we've seen before. And also different sectors of society are involved. Lawyers are being gagged if you try and open up a case. If you try and go to the police, some of the police might actually know exactly what's going on. They might just ignore and say, no, there's no case, there's no problem. Medical practitioners, psychiatrists, psychologists, some of them must know, some of them actually do know what's going on, and they play along and just label people crazy. So the question to ask would be, I mean, it's a 50-year-old problem going around the same circles of denial, and it's over 50 years of this sort of thing, and even in today, there doesn't seem to be any hint of progress in the right direction. So it's going to be, what are the key milestones, and when is it that we're going to start seeing a first year where there's a bit of a turnaround? It's going to have to take volume, and it's going to be a case of compound growth. I think anybody can make these kind of calculations, and you just take a sample calculation and say, if you start off with a certain amount of victims and you're growing by whatever percent, you can take a number, 15%. I picked 15% because it's a nice modest number. How long is it going to take to reach 10 times the scale? It's going to be in 15 years time. which is a long time. 15 years is, if you think about where we were technologically 15 years ago, and 5 years is usually lots of technological advances in 5 years. So it's still going to take 15 years until there are 10 times more victims. It's roundabout. It could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, but it's roundabout 15 years. And the other number is 25% of an affected workforce, 25% being, it's going to be difficult to ignore a quarter of people not being able to contribute to a tax pool if you're a government. So this is still going to take 20 years for it to come to start happening, which is a long, long time. And then to reach 10% of the population that are victims, that 1 out of every 10, of every person is a victim. It's going to take 25 years, which is effectively an entire generation. So these are just the numbers showing how long it's going to take, how long it's actually, because it's still very easy to ignore the problem now. It's going to take quite a long time. Many years of struggle are still to come, but victims of today can only help by speaking out, educating other victims, and doing what they've done before. I mean, a lot of the victims have their information because somebody told them, or somebody sort of informed them, and they've found that information. And as for non-victims, it's all about keeping an open mind. It is becoming a problem. It is becoming a problem for anyone. I mean, most people don't know how they got attacked. They don't know how they got into the program. They don't know why. Who's the next victim? The next victim is going to be a person who's currently just living a normal life, doesn't know that this madness that exists. And it's all about just keeping an open mind.